Let's speak now to Redwan Hussein, who is Ethiopia's State Minister for Foreign Affairs. He joins me now live from Addis Ababa. Thank you for your time. I want to start by asking you about what we heard just before from the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, appointed by the state. It says it has reports of hundreds of arrests of Tigrayans in the capital, elderly, women and children. Is that true?
There is no systematic arrest. Since the state of emergency is actually started by the government, then people are vigilant. So citizens are watching out their neighborhoods and each other out of possible attacks. So people might inform the police if they see something unusual or something amiss. Yes, police might have arrested some individuals. I cannot rule out that, but it will not be systematic. It will not be from one ethnic group. It would be from all walks of life if there is any kind of information tip for the police. But if the police doesn't have adequate reason to suspect, then people would be released. So this is very much an interesting time, and
okay. So just to be clear, so you're saying that people are not
out of their background.
Okay. I just want to be clear. So you're saying that people are not being targeted based on their ethnicity, and that these people, as being reported by the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, who are being arrested, elderly, women and children. You're saying that there are what reasons for their arrest? Do you know what those reasons are?
But I don't think and believe it is through the ethnic profiling, but people might be arrested. I don't think there are children. I don't have that information, and if that happens, the government doesn't allow, and it's very much clear on the state of emergency decisions that people should be treated well, and there must be adequate reason to apprehend any person. So some irregularities might happen, but they won't be very much systematic one. If it happens, then it will also be a criminal act, and anybody that does would actually be held accountable. But they won't be systematic, and there is no systematic arrest just because of your profile.
Okay, so just to be very clear, you cannot tell us why these people have been arrested, but you are telling us that as far as you're concerned, people are not being arrested based on their ethnicity. I want to ask you then about the 16 UN personnel and some 70 drivers for the World Food Programme who've been detained by Ethiopian authorities. Can you tell us why?
People in anywhere, because we are in a conflict, and then a number of terrorist groups might have their own elements, and if the police might have found out some suspect, then they will be bound to apprehend and then also do due investigation. If any individual does not have adequate evidence to charge against him, he must be released. But apprehending some people would not be that much of systematic. But because we are in conflict situation, you know how many people are being attacked, you know how many atrocities are being done, and then a number of actors. So we must be very much careful and vigilant that thing should not be done haphazardly. And then police must do their job, but we will also look into the process. If there is any irregularities, then there must be addressed.
Okay.
And it should be addressed very much so.
Of course,
but I don't think there is that systematic arrest.
We do understand.
The UN staffs, they are not arrested just because working for any UN institution.
Okay, we do understand that a state of emergency, a nationwide state of emergency has been announced. But I just want to be clear on what you just said. So you're saying that these people who have been detained from the United Nations and the World Food Programme, who have been taking or attempting to take much needed aid into the Tigray region, that they are accused of being part of a terrorist group. Is that right?
That must be left for the police. Then I don't have that details because I'm not in the investigation team. But people could be tipped off for any kind of irregular activities, and police must do their job. If they don't have any evidence, they will be released. But it's not because they are working for humanitarian activities. It's not because they are loading the humanitarian food. Because if that is so, there are more than 800 trucks which are still held by TPLF and now carrying trucks, carrying combatants from which entered from Afar, carrying food Now they are transporting combatants in Wollo and also in Gondar
that's
area.
interesting.
So,
yeah, that's interesting. You bring up humanitarian aid.
Criminal activity.
That's interesting. You bring up humanitarian aid because the UN is accusing the federal government of carrying out a de facto blockade of Tigray, that some 369 trucks are being on hold or being held in Samara, pending authorization from the authorities, that no supplies have gotten into Tigray since October the 18th, and that the federal government are holding this up. What do you say to that?
There are two factors for that. One, these same entities are not complaining about 800 trucks which are now blocked in Tigray and carrying combatants. They are not complaining about that. Again, those 300 trucks now are allowed to go to Tigray. I think today that is done. And also flights are allowed to Kombolcha and Lalibela. That's also done today. But the problem is the route which aid would be transported now is turned into conflict zone. And it's not the government which is now firing. Government's only defending itself. Now, these actors should complain, the one which is turning the peaceful route into conflict zone and the one which is blocking 800 trucks from transporting food but transporting combatants.
Okay, that is not what the UN is saying, but that is not what the UN, the United Nations, is saying. But I mean, this is what we're hearing from you. Okay, I want to move on.
That is why we are complaining. Yeah, that is why we are complaining. Some UN agencies are not doing their job, but they are simply covering up atrocities against our citizens.
Sure. Okay. So that is coming back to your allegation that these people who have been detained by the UN and these people from the UN and the World Food Programme who have been detained, you say have been accused of potentially being part of a plot or a terrorist group. I want to come back before we finish. What is the game plan here? Is there any concession that the government would make to try and avoid conflict coming to the capital? Is conflict coming to the capital inevitable?
The conflict is not coming to capital. It's never came to capital, but there is a concerted effort to concoct stories and twist facts and to create hysteria, to force the people to resign from the government and also to disorientate the government from focusing on the problems. Now, the conflict is going on some hundreds of kilometers away from the capital, and it's as if it's going on from another capital of your country. So it's hundreds of kilometers away. That was very much hoax. That was very much concocted story, which was being run by some of the international media, including CNN, New York Times, Fox, and BBC, and Reuters.
Okay,
so
okay. I hear what you're saying.
Disinformation.
I hear what you're saying. This is
to create hysteria among Ethiopian people and international community.
I hear what you're saying. We're not trying to create any sort of hysteria. What I asked you is whether the conflict is going to come to Addis Ababa, because local authorities had asked people to register their weapons, people who are in the capital to register their weapons. I'm afraid we are going to have to leave it there for time. Thank you for your time, Redouane Hussein there, our State Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Sure. Thank you very much. I was not accusing you anyway.
All right. Very good. Moving on.